ariko muri iki cyiciro n'abandi bakozi batandukanye ba leta harimo abakora mu bijyanye n'ubutabera uyu munsi nabo bavuga ko bagowe no kuba umushahara ukiri muto. Nyakubahwa rero baravuga ko ari we bahanze amaso,
kandi wumvise n'amagambo amaze iminsi avuga yaba ari perezida nubwo babifashe nk'aho ari imikino, yivugiye ku giti cye yuko ari wowe kibazo cy'umutekano muri Afurika. Ese twaba twitegura yuko tujya guterwa na Congo?
Ushaka uryame usinzire wicuye wiyongere ntabwo ari ikibazo.
Murakoze nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika. Nitwa Scovia Mutesi, umwanditsi w'ikinyamakuru Mama urwa Gasabo. Mfite ibibazo bibiri. Abarimu uyu munsi barashima ko bongerewe umushahara nyuma y'igihe kinini, ariko muri iki cyiciro n'abandi bakozi batandukanye ba leta harimo abakora mu bijyanye n'ubutabera, abacamanza, abanditsi n'ubushinjacyaha uyu munsi nabo bavuga ko bagowe no kuba umushahara ukiri muto. Abaganga nabo bahembwa make, ariko hakaba harimo n'abadahemberwa diplome bafite. Nyakubahwa rero baravuga ko ari we bahanze amaso nk'uko n'abarimu uyu munsi bishimira ko bongejwe umushahara. Murakoze.
Ubundi ntabwo ari ukuri kose, kuko abo bandi nabo hari igihe actually twigeze kureba icyo twakora kugira ngo hagire ikiyongera ku buzima bwabo cyangwa icyo bahembwa. Harimo for example nk'abaganga, niyo umuntu ataguhaye amafaranga yongera ku mushahara, akaguha uburyo bushobora gutuma wongera icyo ushobora gutahana nyuma y'ukwezi, ni nko kuyaguha. So byarabaye mu baganga, byarabaye n'ahandi aho twagiye dushakisha uburyo icyo batahana cyangwa icyo babona cyazamuka kurusha icyo bari bafite. Ibyo rero birahari nk'ihame kuri leta gushakisha. Nanone ibintu ntabwo byahinduka umunsi umwe, ntibihindukira hamwe byose kubera amikoro. Nanjye bavuga ni icyifuzo, ariko iyo bigeze ku kuri, ku nyakuri, usanga bitabaye nk'uko umuntu yabyifuzaga, kubera aho tuvana ntabwo haduha icyo ari cyo cyose twifuza cyangwa twasezeranije. Icyo navuga rero, ibyo uvuze nibyo. Ku barimu baragerageje, hari imaze gukorwa, ntibizagukanye. Buriya hashobora gushira amezi 6 nabo bagatangira kuvuga batari ko dukeneye ibi, ntabwo bijya birangira. Ariko icyo navuga, nibura hari icyo twakoze gifite intambwe cyabateje. Mbere y'uko twongera gusubira ku barimu, ndibwira ko tuzaba twakoze ibishoboka kugira ngo n'abandi noneho no mu sekiteri zindi bashobore kugira icyo babona, nk'abaganga, nk'abacamanza, abakora mu sekita ya justice. Birashoboka. Ntabwo ariko nasezeranya ngo uyu munsi bizaba byarangiye, kuko naba mbeshya. Tureba envelope uko ingana, uko imeze, aho dukwiriye kuba dushyira, ariko turabitekereza. Icyo navuga ni uko ntabwo tubitekereza kuri bamwe gusa cyangwa tubyifuriza bamwe tutabigeza ku bandi. Nabyo rero ndibwira ko bizabageraho byanze bikunze. Tuzakora ibishoboka byose. Leta muri rusange, iyo mikorere niko imeze. Ubwo tuzakomeza dushakisha aho twavana, ahashoboka, hamwe twaba tuhagaritse wenda hafite uko hameze neza, duteze imbere ahandi.
Murakoze nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika. Nitwa Kensi, nkaba ndi umunyamakuru wa TV na Radio 1. Ikibazo cyanjye kiragaruka muri Congo, ko ni twese turahangayitse nk'abanyarwanda. Umugaba mukuru wungirije w'ingabo za Congo, General Chiwewe Apeto Chiko, yitangarije yuko amaze iminsi azenguruka mu bihugu bya SADC kugira ngo intambara y'u Rwanda bayitsinde. Kandi wumvise n'amagambo amaze iminsi avuga yaba ari perezida nubwo babifashe nk'aho ari imikino, yivugiye ku giti cye yuko ari wowe kibazo cy'umutekano muri Afurika. wareba ibyo abandi bose babajije nkabona yuko tubifata nk'aho ari ugukina ariko wenda bikaba ari na seriye. Ese twaba twitegura yuko tujya guterwa na Congo kuko banavuze ko bashaka kutwanekisa tukaba intara ya 8. Murakoze mwadusubiza kuri ibyo mukaduhumuriza cyangwa se mukaduteguza tukitegura.
Ntaho mbona bishingiye, ntaho mbona yashoboka. Ushaka uryame usinzire wicuye wiyongere, ntabwo ari ikibazo. Ibyo umwe yaba yaravuze muri Congo, ibyo afite uburenganzira bwo kuvuga ibyo ashaka kuvuga, ntabwo bivugwa byose biba ari ukuri, cyane cyane iyo bivuga kuri iki kibazo cya Congo kivugwa n'abanyekongo bo muri leta. Ariko icyo nzi ni uko SADC ishobora gushaka gufasha ahubwo nayo mu gukemura ikibazo cya Congo. Ntabwo nibwira rero ko ushaka gukemura ikibazo cya Congo, nubwo abenshi bashobora bashaka kugikemura bakagikemura nabi cyangwa bakaba bagira ibyo bakora biteza bizana intambwe guterwa mu gukemura ikibazo. Ntabwo nibwira ko bizagana kugirira nabi u Rwanda bafashije Congo. Ntabwo mbibona, mu kubona kwanjye ntabwo mbibona. Ariko icyo nakubwira ni uko bya bindi iteka iyo udashaka intambara urayitegura. Iyo ushaka amahoro witegura intambara. Rero ubwo dushaka amahoro yo kwitegura, twiteguye kera. Sorry?
My name is Wahiga Mwaura from Citizen TV in Nairobi, Kenya. 2 quick questions for you. The first one is on the challenges in the DRC. What is your advice today or your message to those overseeing the Nairobi-led peace process, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and of course the host President William Ruto? What's your message to them in terms of what needs to be done to make sure that peace process actually works? That's my first question. My second question to you is, with a presidential election looming, and you've had questions on the same in regards to that. Now, Rwanda has done very well in ticking the right development metrics, healthcare, access to finances for the people, technology, and so much more. And the ratings are not just by local institutions, but international institutions as well. But there's one metric that Rwanda continuously scores low in, and that is on human rights, political freedom, and press freedom as well. Your Excellency, with that election in mind, does it concern you that until today your country still suffers a contradiction of very good rankings by international agencies on one end, but very poor rankings on the human rights front on the other? Does it concern you? And if it does, what are you doing about it? Thank you.
Yeah. Starting with that last one, is there really a situation where you have one and not the other? And what would be the meaning? Because on one hand, on all human indexes, you are scoring fine. What does that mean? Human, it's already human. You are giving people more health, you are giving people more food, they are not starving, you are giving them security, you are giving... And it's not, by the way, this is it, it's not dishing it out to them. They are part of it. These things happen because they are involved, they are part of it. There is security because they are part of it. There is this production and this because they are part of it. It can't be by a leader or leaders and then minus the people. then you don't get there. Everything you mention is about accountability, fight corruption. Well, sometimes people associate corruption with freedom. You're even free to be corrupt. You are free to steal. You are free to... Now here we are saying, no. You're not free. You are accountable, especially when it comes to leaders. When you are holding resources in your hands for the people, and the only reason you have resources in your hands, this is not your money. It is the money from the people and for the people. So if you steal it and do nothing for them, the courts will take care of you. We insist on that. And of course, because of that, by the way, we have produced so many people who are sort of disgruntled, and a number of them, some have been even escaping the country and going abroad. And somebody has a file here in court for stealing everything that was meant for the people he was leading. And then they go to London, meets the media, and it is everywhere in the Guardian and everything. Oh, this person is being persecuted by Kagame regime. This is the common thing. But this man is just a thief, absolute thief. So, in other words, some of these things, the way they have happened, and that is a narrative you are referring to, there is a narrative of progress on one hand, which I said, it can't happen simply. You will tell me where you know it has happened. But things are moving so well for people and by these people, but then there is everything lacking in the system about their freedom, about their human rights. I just don't understand. The good thing about all this nonsense being said, unfortunately, it's not like mathematics. You add up things, you multiply, you do this, and there is unexpected, what you get out if you get it right, it's what it is. But here, you add up things, and then you end up with some result that is dependent, that is subjective, that is dependent on the judgment of a journalist or a human rights person or somebody, even when the things don't add up.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm Banana Mata. I represent the East African. My first question relates to the impact of the war in Ukraine on the African continent and the underwhelming response within the AU and what the AU could potentially have done differently. Specifically, if you look at what's happening now, within the global environment, a lot of resources are being consumed and all the attention and money is about Ukraine. And increasingly we are seeing that even the financing that has been available under global financial institutions may be rechanneled to the reconstruction of Ukraine. Against that background, we look at the AU and wonder its capacity to respond to already what we are seeing on the continent as a result of this war. One, food insecurity, inflation, and then, of course, on the other side, debt. Within the context of the AU, you have led reforms before. Could you speak to that challenge? Because it appears the reforms have stalled since then. My second question relates to Rwanda's upcoming presidential elections.
The first one was already like 4 questions.
Your Excellency,
just one final one relating to the presidential elections upcoming next year. Against this challenging global environment and the region, have you prepared someone to take over these challenges next year? Thank you, Your Excellency.
Why not prepare myself as well? I think someone who needs to prepare himself or herself, and then if they need my support, I give it to them. But it's not a big challenge for me. With time, I'm increasingly prepared to go home and have some rest. So about what happens next year for elections, I'm not so much worried. I'm at peace with myself and with everything that will happen in regard to that next year. That's not really one of the things that take my time. But now I'm concerned and keep paying attention to what happens in Congo. Even before I think about Ukraine, I'm starting here, around in the neighborhood. In fact, what affects me from Congo is as much as probably what is affecting us from what is happening far away between the warring sides around Ukraine. But to your first point, the Ukraine situation certainly has turned things more or less upside down. There are so many things going wrong. As of the beginning, the problems there, worse even now, as we speak. Things seem to... And what is happening has a lot of dimensions. It has changed things. It's almost like having the Ukraine problem following or combined with COVID. It has changed the lives of people in the world as we know it, and also the politics, the economy, and many things. To be honest, Africa or the African Union need to think about this very seriously and need to have, as a continent, a strategy and how to deal with many things originating from that situation. But unfortunately, two things will affect us inevitably. One is Africa is marginalized. It has no say at all, if I may say, as to what happens in that part of the world. It's the big players who are, it's Russia, it's Europe, it's Ukraine itself, it's the US, China. Whatever they are doing, some of which we understand, other things we don't understand. Africa is just there. I don't know how we can reform that. It's very difficult to use any ideas of reform how Africa, but we are probably going to be hit hardest. Or already, well, it's hard enough, it's difficult. Countries are beginning to experience hardships originating from the effects of that situation. Directly and indirectly through other factors like you have just mentioned. When the partners we've been dealing with before this crisis, we have been dealing with them in a certain way, already which had its own flaws that we needed to address. But now that their minds are no longer with you, even 5%, their minds are now focused on that very situation we're talking about. Things are going to, are bound to certainly get worse. So it's very clear. I can analyze, I can talk about the problem, but to tell you what we need to do about it effectively to address the problem is another issue. Another issue that is difficult. So the second problem is the way we have been anyway all along before as Africa. We are already in a very weak position of how to deal with our own challenges, let alone challenges originating from the outside and or with the outside. So for Africa, I hate to believe or see it as somehow a continent floating just on top of the sea that can drown them anytime things go wrong one way or the other. I hate to believe that this is the state of affairs that we need to be thinking about or preparing for, except the preparing is really not there. But at least psychologically we can keep talking about it and preparing. So, as one of the leaders on our continent and the one you said was responsible for reforms, I'm not sure my skills are up to the task to reform the continent facing that challenge, or at least in such a short time. That might be a task of somebody who comes next year. We started by saying, what am I doing about it? So maybe I'd have to support somebody who can do better than me on this in terms of reforming Africa and confronting these challenges.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time and taking over 20 questions. We wish you a good evening.
We did take 20?
We took more than 20, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.